Welcome back to Bloom. With so many competitions being canceled due to coronavirus, our next guest is joining us to encourage virtual competitions to boost fitness and health. Joining us is exercise psychologist and human performance expert, masters athlete, Dr. Guy Dirkin. Thanks so much for joining us today, Dr. Dirkin.
Hi, Mari. It's great to be here.
So first, you are a world champion in Masters Discus, regularly traveling and competing. So how has the pandemic impacted you personally?
Yeah, the main event in Masters Track and Field this year is the Outdoor World Championships, which was to be held in Toronto. So they were cancelled. The main impact of that is that you suddenly lose your focus and you lose your goal of everything you've been training for at least a year, if not 4 years.
So I'm sorry to hear about your canceled competition, but many of them are being canceled, but they're being replaced by these virtual competitions, literally worldwide. So how can this remote training and competing help you to stay fit and healthy?
Yeah, so originally it was a replacement of the goal. We'd lost our point of focus. So now we've replaced what would have been an actual in-person competition with a worldwide track and field event, including throwing, jumping, and running, and race walking, through in July the 18th to the 2nd of August, which was the period when the World Championships would have taken place. Once individual participants all over the world have finished their events, then they will enter results on the computer, and we'll pass out those results about a week later.
So how are these virtual competitions being run? I'm assuming just using technology to the fullest?
So good question. So there are multiple kinds. What we're doing is suggesting that people go out and perform physically at some location and then submit the results electronically. There are others that you literally can use a Zoom kind of conference environment, depending on what kind of physical activity you're doing. It would need to be somewhat contained versus doing a 10K. I mean, if you've got some kind of activity that's in the living room with somebody else in Australia who's doing the same kind of activity, you can make those comparisons that way.
So you are organizing this virtual Masters Track and Field competition. What sparked that idea? And tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we needed a replacement for the World Championships this year. So we quickly garnered the idea of having a virtual competition, first of all, for throwers only. But then as things grew, we included all other events of jumping and running.
So what are some takeaways that our audience can have in reference to this awesome conversation?
Yeah, so exercise behavior. You need to find a training buddy. It certainly helps you do a social contract to commit to some goals that you might have agreed upon with a friend or a group of friends. It doesn't necessarily have to be a competition, but competition kind of adds some flavor to that. So I think there are two sort of lessons here from what we're doing. One is, don't think that you can't compete, you can't organize your training with somebody else. And then the second part is, we've got this kind of technology now, use it.
I like it. That's great. Wonderful points, Dr. Dirkin. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
We'll be back with more Bloom right after this.